jedno z najważniejszych wydarzeń tegorocznej edycji festiwalu. Przed Państwem za chwilę na naszej scenie Mr. Jim Lee. Proszę o klaski.
Wielkie wydarzenie komiksowe odrodzenie wersji DC. Nowe serie ze słynnymi superbohaterami. Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, Aquaman.
A spotkanie poprowadzi Kamil Sełkowski.
I inni. Komiksy dla wszystkich fanów dobrej rozrywki.
Dzień dobry Państwu, jesteśmy w samym centrum festiwalu i na jednym z najważniejszych jego momentów, bo to główne wydarzenie tego festiwalu, czyli DC Odrodzenie, wielka nowa zmiana w wydawnictwie DC, którą wreszcie po raz pierwszy po polsku możemy śledzić, nie że w tym samym momencie co Amerykanie, ale niemal z tym samym rozmachem. Kilkanaście tytułów, wiele serii, wiele rzeczy się będzie działo. No i mamy głównego architekta tego wydarzenia, Jima Lee, jedną z największych gwiazd komiksu amerykańskiego, który jest naszym gościem w Polsce. I mamy kilkanaście minut, podczas których ja zadam kilka pytań, być może ktoś z Państwa również będzie miał na to ochotę. Jim wytłumaczy nam, o co chodzi z tym całym odrodzeniem. No ale zacznijmy od pytania najprostszego. How Poland?
Dziękuję. Thank you. Yes, that's all I know. So, first off, let me just say it's been fantastic coming here to Poland. I started in comics in 1987, but I read comics as a kid, and I would never have imagined that my job would eventually lead me to this amazing country so far away to talk to you guys about comic books and my career. It was not something I ever expected, but the whole business changed as technology was able to take the characters and the concepts and bring them to life on the screen, because it invited everyone in the world to see what was so special about these comic book characters that so attracted me as a kid. And so it's amazing to be here. I had some of the beer last night. I think it was like 4.4% alcohol, which is strong. But they said it's the weakest one here, so I was very thankful they gave me the baby beer. So because in America, beers are like, I think it's like 1.8% or 3% maybe. So I woke up in the middle of the street this morning. I don't know where, but then I also had the Polish vodka, which is very sweet. It was, so it was delicious. So I probably will be drinking some more tonight. Anyway, so thank you for having me here at the show. I am also, I draw comic books, but I also am the publisher for DC Comics. So we're here, we're very excited to be here to talk about DC Rebirth. Right, that's in Polish, right? Right. So the idea was, years ago we did something called the New 52 in the United States. I know in Poland it was called the New DC, and it essentially was a reboot of the line. So we took all the characters that everyone knew, like Batman and Superman and Wonder Woman, Green Lantern, Justice League, and we started over from the very beginning. And it was a very revolutionary thing to do, but it was very exciting for older fans and new fans, because everyone felt they could jump in and start from the very beginning. One of the problems I think with comic books is that they've been around in America for about 80 years, and that's a lot of comic book material to read and know. And so when you start over, people go, oh, I can start from issue 1 and understand this, and so it was very inviting, and it brought a lot of new people into the business. That said, a lot of people that have been reading comics for a long time felt that maybe too much was changed, particularly with characters like Superman. And so there was an initiative we created within DC to maybe embrace some of the past and return to some of the more classical elements of the characters. And so there was a writer named Jeff Johns, who's also our Chief Creative Officer. He's also the person at DC that's very involved with all the movies and TV shows and games, a very, very busy guy. And he basically worked with all the different writers and editors on all the books that we published to figure out what makes each of these characters unique and special. And they really recreated the characters, but in not so much in terms of continuity, but what makes them special. And so all the stories really reflected the, let's say for example in Superman's case, hope and optimism and what he stands for. And so it was a return to the classical elements, and it was very, very successful. And so we got to kind of have our cake and eat it too, as we say in English. I don't know, is there a Polish expression for that? Having your cake and eat it too? Yes, so it's like having it both ways, right? And so we were able to do the new DC and make things new and bring people in, but with New 52, unlike the New 52, Rebirth also showed people what was so classically appealing about these characters. And so it was a really, really great moment, and it's been very, very successful, and we're very excited to be sharing the new Rebirth initiative with you guys starting today.
I want to ask about Rebirth. You chief, you can choose everything.
Sure.
Which series you chose to draw and why?
So, on top of being a publisher, I work with Dan DiDio. We oversee the entire publishing line. But I also draw comic books. I drew a book called Batman Hush like 15 years ago. Thank you. My mom is here, thank you. Very old joke. Anyway, so I also worked on a book called The X-Men for some other company a long time ago. And you might have heard them too. Anyway, so I oversee the whole line, and so we create things like Rebirth and the new DC. But I also draw comic books at night and on the weekends, so I worked on a book. I chose to work on Suicide Squad. And I chose that book because I was a very big fan of the original comic book series from the 1980s. And then obviously in the New 52, we introduced Harley Quinn into the team. And I always liked that character. And then when they made the movie and I saw the movie, I said, this is an amazing version of the Suicide Squad. It would be really fun to draw these characters in the DC continuity. And so I worked with a British writer named Rob Williams, and I did about 6 or so issues. And at the end of the day, it was our version of the Suicide Squad that was very similar to what was happening in the movies. And so it's really cool to be able to do that kind of thing where we enact change across our entire line on a strategic level as a publisher, but I also love being sort of on the front lines working on one specific book, and it allows me to really focus on my art and telling one particular story.
It's obvious question, but I must ask your favorite hero.
Favorite hero?
Yes. Exactly.
Sure. My favorite hero. My mom is my favorite hero. My wife is my favorite hero. We have 9 children, and so my wife does a lot in the family.
Okay.
I'm here, she's home. So, comic book heroes. There's so many. I would have to say Batman is one of my favorites. Obviously, he's everyone's favorite, I think. But I like him a lot because. Aside from being Batman, I think he has the very best villains in the entire, not just comics, but just the entire fiction world. I can't think of another fictional character that has characters like Catwoman, Joker, the Riddler, Two-Face. There's so many great villains in the Batman mythology. Bane is another one. And so there are very few characters, whether it's James Bond or like Sherlock Holmes or any of them, really. And so it's amazing that he's been around now for almost 80 years, and he still is such a popular character. And I think it's because of the endless depth in his villains. There's so many great villains to choose from.
Okay, can we back to Rebirth? It's new series. There are 4 new writers, new comic fan.
Yeah, so Rebirth is a great way to jump into the DC universe. My favorite Rebirth books are Superman, Green Arrow,
Not Suicide Squad?
and Suicide Squad. Okay, it's all right. So those 3 books, coincidentally, are also available today here at the show. So what we call a plug. Anyway, so it's really good. We actually have one of the artists on the books, Otto Schmidt. Is he here? Otto? He's not here. He's signing, but he's a tremendously gifted Russian artist that lives in Cyprus. And this is his second time to sorry. And he will be signing Green Arrow over in the artist area. And that is a really great book. Do you guys have the Arrow TV show here?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. So it's it really highlights the romance between Oliver Queen and Black Canary. And that's something that we kind of got rid of in the new DC, but the fans really wanted that classic element, that central relationship brought back, and so we reintroduced it in Rebirth.
Can you think sometimes DC superheroes can fly to Poland?
Poland. You know what? I'll tell you that I love, so 15 years ago, I lived in Italy for 1 year. I just wanted to live in a different country, and I met a lot of Italian writers and artists, and we creatively schemed together and came up with a project called Batman Europa. It took a long time to get finished, but the idea was, what if Batman came to Europe and hit all the major cities on the Western Europe, so Paris, Rome, Berlin, and we try to use as many local European artists and talent to put that book together. I love traveling in general because it inspires me. It's really great to see the passion that you guys have for the material we create, because we hope for the future of our business. It shows that we're connecting with just not American fans, but fans all around the world, and that's very, very rewarding and gratifying. At the end of the day, I would love to bring Batman to Poland. On my Instagram feed, if you follow my Instagram feed at JimLeeArt, like for like, I'll do it. So, I was in Warsaw, and I took a photo and I drew like a little Batman on a statue, and it was cool. It looked good. The architecture of Poland, and I think it could work. So it'd be interesting to create a story where we did one where Batman was in Barcelona. And so there is a history to Batman traveling around the world. He's a billionaire, so it's easy for him to get around. And it will be interesting to bring him here, maybe eat some pierogies or something.
Yeah.
Have some beers and then collapse. So maybe we'll have it happen.
You think about back to write, create books, writing stories. Sometimes you write these stories.
Yeah, I don't really write the books, but it's a very, I know my limits. I think I can draw a story pretty well, but writing is a very different kind of skill. I can like co-plot or plot a story, first act, second act, third act. There's certain rules that you can kind of follow that gives you structure. I'm not so good with dialogue and nuance and personality and stuff, but I do like talking to writers about the sort of big cosmic picture of what we're doing in the DC universe. So it's very common for us to bring in a lot of talent from all around the world, both artists and writers, and we sit and talk about the future of the DC mythology, the world that we're creating, and we work maybe 2-3 years in advance. So that's a big part of what we do. And again, it's great to travel and meet the creators that we work with all around the world, because everyone has a different point of view, and it's great to hear the feedback that everyone has about where the DC universe should go.
I must ask about DC movies.
DC movies, okay?
Your friend.
Have you seen any DC movies here? Do you guys have DC movies here?
Your friend.
I know the answers. I'm just trying to talk to you guys, honestly. So.
What is your favorite?
Favorite?
Yes.
I'll tell you that I really liked Batman v Superman. I know that's yeah. See, this has watched it. Same way in America. So I really loved it because it introduced Wonder Woman. That was like the best part of the movie. When she shows up, I'll reenact the film. So she shows up, and the music comes on, and it's like, wow, this is a different movie in the middle of this movie. And it was really cool to see Wonder Woman brought to life, and you could see that she was passionate. She was sort of smiling during the battle, which was an idea that we introduced actually in the New 52, or the New DC here. So if you read the New DC, that Justice League story that I did with Jeff Johns actually is sort of the source material for the Justice League movie and Batman v Superman. So having Wonder Woman that is sort of she is passionate and enjoys combat is something that was introduced in the comic book, and you see it reflected in the movies. The fact that Jeff Johns is one of the key architects in the DC Universe movie world, it helps to have him sort of steering both ships. And so it was great seeing some of those concepts. Some of the costumes were kind of influenced by what we did in the new DC. So it was a lot of work that was done in 2011 that kind of showed up on the screen several years later. So that was probably my first, but obviously Wonder Woman was amazing. Yeah. That was my wife's favorite DC movie. She actually turned to me and said, "This is my favorite movie." And I took my, I said 9 children, I have 6 girls, 3 boys. Sorry, I forgot one. Luckily, don't put this on the internet, I'll get in trouble. One of them's very small, so that's why I forget. But anyway, I took them to see it. Again, the girls really responded like, this is my favorite movie, and I think it's because that movie, Patty Jenkins really took a more female point of view of what an action movie should be, and it wasn't about Wonder Woman needing to be rescued by, you know, Trevor Scott, or not Trevor Scott, sorry, by Steve Trevor, sorry. Trevor Scott is an artist that works for DC Comics, sorry, and so Steve Trevor. And I think the fact that she basically ignored any man in the movie who tried to give her advice, and that she was doing things that people thought were impossible to achieve, really resonated with not just female fans, but all viewers, because it represented a vision for this character that had really never been put on the screen before. And so it was really exciting to see that happen, and then even more gratifying to see the success of the movie over time. The box office results, you know, it's been a huge movie for DC, so it's been fantastic to watch that. And then they just announced that Patty Jenkins is returning to do the second movie. So,
Your favorite DC TV series?
my favorite DC TV series? You know, I like them all. I think, you know, I thought Hellblazer was actually, well, you know, yeah, it was short-lived, but I thought it was actually pretty good. Lucifer, do you guys get Lucifer here? Yeah, that actually is pretty fun. But of the superhero one, I think Flash is the most straightforward representation of superhero comics, right? And what, you know, we love the TV shows, but I'll tell you that Dan DiDio, the other publisher, and I, we feel a little threatened by the TV shows because they're doing a lot of the stuff that we did. They're doing crossovers and musicals and all sorts of stuff. And they're getting, and so in a way, the kinds of stories we used to do just in publishing are now being reflected in TV shows, and that's amazing because again, we get to share all these great ideas that help to kind of inspire these shows with you. And it's also great to see people diving into the world of DC and knowing so many of the heroes and villains that we publish. I would never have guessed people would ever have known about so many of the characters that were comic book characters when I was a kid growing up.
Mamy czas na 3 krótkie pytania. Okej, proszę.
I have a question because here we have, we may say that we here say the final product. But I would like to, final product, I mean physical comic. But I would like to ask you how the process looks like in the DC offices. I mean, what kind of environmental is inside the scene? How it looks like the whole process? You have the ideas, and then you are making some sketches, then someone is making a decision, and then second question, what kind of boss you are?
What kind of what?
What kind of boss you are?
What kind of boss?
Boss.
What kind of boss am I? I'm the best. Come on. Who wouldn't want to work with me? I'm always smiling. It's very friendly. Yeah, I don't know what kind of... I'll tell you that I think one of the reasons my boss, Diane Nelson, brought me and Dan to work together is that we kind of complement each other. Because I really worked as an artist, or that's how I broke into the business. I was a freelancer. I know what it's like to kind of produce the work and work by yourself to really understand how these books are put together. But then I also created my own company when we launched Image Comics. You guys get Image Comics here?
Yes.
Years ago. And so I have some of that business experience. And I was really kind of an entrepreneur in that everything we did with Image Comics we created for the first time. But DC is based in LA, Los Angeles, Burbank, and it's a very nice building that we built from the start. We have a room that looks like Sinestro's headquarters in the center. It has like a big symbol like Sinestro. It has like the costumes from the movies there. And we're on 3 different floors. We have executives and publicity and editorial and the legal office. At the end of the day, it's a great work environment, and it's like what you imagine it would be. Like we sit around and we come up with crazy ideas. We make ourselves laugh because the ideas are so crazy. But when they make us laugh, we actually think they're kind of good. They just have to be refined a little bit. And I'll tell you that. To give you an example, not so much at the DC office, but when I worked on All-Star Batman and Robin with Frank Miller, we were in Chicago and we were just driving around just goofing on Green Lantern. We're saying Green Lantern is a ridiculous character a little bit because he can't fight yellow, and we were just making jokes about it. And then the next day, Frank Miller went home and he wrote a story based on the jokes that we made. He made them more dramatic, of course. And I think that's like the fun of the DC office, that we all love the characters, and we can say like, oh, what if this happened? And it's like funny, and then you go, but yeah, if we make it this way, it's actually a little more dramatic. And so it's a very collaborative, creative environment, and we all work together on the stories, and then we work with the writers to help them take those ideas and make them into comic book issues. So it's a very you know, it's a lot of fun. In terms of being a boss, I tell you that, you know, I love comics, and I think my approach is, if I give you a criticism about something that you've done that I go, I don't really like it, I always try to give you at least a suggestion of what might be better, so that you can say, well, your idea is as bad as mine, you know, so, because I think that opens the door to discussion, and it allows us to have a discussion rather than a one-way conversation where I just say, no, that's no good. So now you can say, no, your idea is as shitty as my idea, and then, okay, we can all relax and maybe we can come up with a better idea together. So.
Okay, so in the past, DC Comics made a crossover with Batman and Wolverine and Sabretooth and Joker. So, do you know if DC Comics is making a new crossover or something like this?
What are they making with those? What are they making? Oh, crossover with Marvel. Will there ever be a crossover with Marvel? I don't want to disappoint you, because you look like a very nice person. You know, if you want one, maybe, no. I'm sorry. Horrible. I doubt it, just because I think we've done a crossover before, a long time ago, before you were born. And it was okay. It wasn't the best crossover, in my opinion. But I think when you get to that point, you do it because there's no other options. And I think right now, both universes, we're trying to figure out really cool events just using our characters. When you cross over with that, you know you're going to sell a lot of copies, but you're doing it just because it's an event. It might not necessarily be the best story. And so if there was a really great story, if you want to come up with a story and you tell me later, I'm at the hotel down the street over here, the Novotel. You can just tell me what you think, and maybe that'll become a reality. I can't pay you anything, but I will thank you. It's my #1 Polish fan. So no, great boss. Thank you. So I think that's, end of the day, that's what's really required is there a really great creative reason to do it? We know that we do it, we'll sell a lot of copies and make money, but I don't think we want to really do it unless we have a really strong creative premise.
Okay.
Hello Jim. I have 2 questions related with DC films. First question, have you seen a rough cut of Justice League movie?
No, I can't say. I can neither confirm nor deny.
Okay, so second question, what is your favorite cinematic version of Batman? Ben Affleck or maybe George Clooney?
George Clooney actually was, I thought it was a pretty good Batman. Yeah, I liked nipples. Yeah. The nipples, we all have them, yes. Yeah. No, it's, you cannot define a movie by whether there's nipples or not. Come on, seriously. Yeah, no, you can? I'm sorry, okay. No, I'll tell you that I thought he was, I liked some of the costumes in that movie. Was it Batman Robin Returns? No, Batman Robin, right. So, look, I'll tell you that every one of these movies, no one goes out to make a movie that's bad. Like, there's so much effort that it goes into every single production, and so I've seen that effort behind the scenes, and you meet the filmmakers, you meet the actors, and they're all trying to do their best, and so not everything works. And so I have a different, maybe a slightly different perspective on it. I'm not as hasty to go like, that's effing horrible, like, it, you know, so I look at it more from the standpoint of what they were trying to achieve, and again, maybe if they did this, this, and this, it'd be a better movie. So again, try to be constructive with the criticism. But I think Ben Affleck's a pretty amazing Batman. He's a very beefy, hungry Batman, and I think he's also a very good Bruce Wayne. You know, I think the chemistry between him and Wonder Woman and Superman is really, really nice. The way they kind of interact together. So.
Jim,
yeah, I remember you from yesterday.
Yeah, thank you.
Between the 3rd and 4th beer, I remember.
Yeah, that was me. I got a question. You mentioned travels to Italy. How come did you get Enrico Marini to do Batman?
Yeah, so Enrico Marini is doing Batman Dark Prince Charming, and yeah, we're really excited for that because we're working with our French publisher, Dargaud, Urban Comics, and Enrico is an Italian national, but he lives in Switzerland and he works for a French publisher, and he's a very big fan of Batman, and so we worked with Dargaud to basically create a relationship with Enrico to do his version of Batman, and his version of Batman is very interesting because he's drawing inspiration from the comic books, but also you can see influences from the movies and even maybe some of the video games. But he's done his own versions of Batman and Harley Quinn. They're very recognizably those characters, but they're also uniquely his. And that's what we wanted. We wanted a very kind of European take on the Batman mythology to maybe better sell it within Europe, and we're going to also sell it at the same time in the United States to help him find an audience because his work is terrific. So we hope to do more of those kind of collaborations all around the world because we recognize that what we produce is a very distinctive taste and flavor that might not always do the best in different marketplaces. So we want to work with local creators, whether in Poland, Italy, France, and create stories that maybe reflect a different point, a subtle different point of view.
Thank you.
You've got one series on Dark Matter. So, what is the plot of the series, or just the main character?
That's a great question. Very good question. He asked what am I doing in Dark Matter? Dark Matter is a project that we're doing now that spins out of a project called DC Metal. It's written by Scott Snyder and drawn by Greg Capullo, and it is a crossover event that's affecting the whole DC universe. Out of that storyline, we're spinning out new books, and one of the books is one that I'm drawing called The Immortal Men. And in The Immortal Men, it's a story about a young man who basically loses everything in his life and has to sacrifice that to join a team called the Immortal Men. And the Immortal Men basically have an eternal war they're fighting in the shadows against the forces of evil. And what's exciting about this book is that we're tying in a lot of the immortal characters like Raja Rule, Hawkman, Vandal Savage, and explaining some of the cross connections between these characters that have never been established before. So again, if you didn't understand anything I just said, it's okay. It's very sort of DC, it's a very advanced storyline. But what's great about it is that you can pick it up and we'll basically walk you through and explain all this stuff. And so, and we're very excited because all the Dark Matter books are being driven by artists, and we're introducing a lot of new characters into the universe. We love Batman, we love Superman, we love Wonder Woman, the Justice League, but these characters have been around for 75 plus years. We recognize that our future really relies on our willingness to try new ideas and introduce new concepts into the mythology so that future generations will look at it and go like, well, this version looks different from what was published before, so that their DC universe feels different than what happened before. And that's how we keep our business alive, by keeping it relevant and contemporary and up to date. So it's a very important initiative for us to introduce new characters into the universe.
Thank you. I na teraz to tyle. Zapraszamy Państwa bardzo na godzinę 16 na spotkanie z Jimem do sali a jutro tu na dużej scenie o 10:30 będziecie mogli zobaczyć, jak Jim rysuje.
Thank you so much.